So let's add some more animations to our character, and let's try and put some crowds to this. So we can see from the FPS part, we have our camera parent, we have our hands animator and all these things. And I think, yeah, our animator for this one has, let's see, what animations do we have? We have the idle and equipped. Okay, so we need to go one step above, probably around either the camera parent, or maybe one object on top of it. And let's say we want to add, although I guess the tilde will be more correct. Let's say we want to add crowds, then we will have to move from from 1.8 to 1, or maybe something less. So yeah, okay, let's try with this then. So we can add an animator here. Okay, the easy way to do this would be here, this, and then we can just create the animation like normal. Okay, this is now separate from, of course, I'll just add camera on top, and I'll say camera idle, and then we can just put one single keyframe at the start, and then we can also create the camera crowds, and we can call it maybe at 1. And if you want to create brown, then something less than 1, maybe 0.5. Okay, and camera wise, this should be more than enough. All we have to do now is fix this, and of course we should be triggering which state we're going to go in. Now we can add the parameters to this, but maybe that's just too much work for what we need to use for this. So let's go onto our controller and let's create some let's create some stances. So I'm going to just make an enum, and I'm going to say stance, or yeah, let's just say stance, and we'll have standing, crouch, and prone. Okay, and we can set up now just, well, I guess the state. So we could just say public stance, current stance. Now we need to go through a method that will be responsible for updating all these variables. So let's create a method that will handle all the updates for either the TPS or the FPS part. So we will do change stance, and we can say stance as so. So you know what? Will be much more simpler if we do it with an int, actually. And to do that, let's just say in here, and I'm going to tell you why it's going to be much simpler. I'm just going to add an idle, a stance for an int, and basically we're going to say I want to exit the, if stance is 1, go to crowds with this blending. Maybe we want this to be faster, we'll see. So if crowds is not equals or is equal 0, then go back to idle. If then is equals to 2, then go back to prone, and if is equals 1, go back to crowds, and then again if it equals 0, go back to idle. Okay, and from here you could basically just do a bigger cross and say if it equals to 2, go from idle directly to prone. Okay, let's say we need to remove the has exit. Yeah, everything is done. So here and we can just do, well, because this is an int, you could just do FPS handler. We need a reference to this animator as well then. So let's open up the FPS handler. We have the recoil animator, the hands animator, and we also want the camera animator. Okay, so camera animator, set integer stance, and just cast this into an int. Camera animator, why do you not set integer? Okay. Okay. And then TPS handler animator, we only have one animator, so we will assume that you're going to be passing the stance, the same thing. Now you can also do this, so you can cast it only once. Doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, you have one less casting, but yeah, kind of micro optimization. Okay, but we don't do any animations right now, so I'm just going to comment this out. So now, adding the change stance now will basically mean we have to add some keys. Now this is, as I said, we're going to change this to the new input system, and it might be time to do that, but at this moment I'm just going to do input get, let's just hard code the key, and I'll just put C, and we'll move that to crowds. But here's the thing, you need to be looking at, let's say, change stance. We need to be looking at what's the stance we're actually in right now, because if we are pressing 2 times the crowds, then that means we want to go to idle. So instead of change stance, we're going to say, we're going to rename this to target stance. Okay, so we're going to say if our current stance is the same as the target stance, then actually just put this over here, then I'm just going to always revert back to 0, which is the idle. Let's put this here, stance, so it's back to idle. Okay, so let's say we want to also do the prone. We're just going to take P, and then we're going to prone, and that should be it. We also need to change the current stance, of course, which means we could just do current stance equals stance, the stance we're passing. Okay, easy stuff. Don't think anyone will have any problems with this. So just for fun, let's test it. And yeah, of course we forgot to assign the animator, and we need to go on the FPS handler, and of course camera animator will be this one, the tilter. Okay, let's try it. Okay, we see our stance, and yeah, that's a nice shadow. And let's see, I think prone is not working, or I forgot to change the key. Let's see, stance prone, yeah. Oh, yeah, I made it to be P, which is silly. Let's just set it to Z. Just for fun, let's test again. Okay, and there we go. So then we can do the, yeah, so basically we can just do the prone, and we can control from the stance which speeds we can move on, and so on and so on. So let's do that next. So let's see, where are we moving from? Well, these are all our values for moving, aiming, all those things, and we of course have to obtain oh no, that's the controller. Okay, from the controller we should be moving, of course. So handle movement is all that. So okay, we have the speed, movement speed. So over here we should of course do crouch speed and prone speed. Now aim speed is kind of, I guess, special, you can say, or we can do something different from aim speed, and I'll just say one. So we need to know if we are moving, first of all, if we are aiming, or actually we need to just know our basic movement speed, I guess, and move speed. Okay, so we can do the stance we have, or current stance, then we can just say float speed, and we can start with move speed, I guess. Standing doesn't matter. Crouch, then speed will be crouch speed, and prone of course will be prone speed. Now we could just say that we only want to affect aim speed while you are, yeah, you know what, let's just say if you're aiming, is aiming, then from that speed you have, just remove the aim speed. Okay, just make sure you don't set this to 0 in some way. So let's try this out. We have movement speed 5. Let's say crouch speed will be 3, prone speed will be 1, and aim speed, let's do 0.8 and hit play. Okay, 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 and you can see when I'm aiming and moving, when I'm prone and aiming, I'm moving slower, I'm moving a little bit faster but still slower than normal crouching, and aim the same as well. But I think it's maybe a little bit too much once you're moving the speed, so we might just do a carte blanche and saying if you're aiming, then your speed should be different on all cases, I guess, and we should have the weapon affect that. So we'll do, let's say this will be aim speed, this will be public float aim crouch speed, I don't remember the values, so whatever, and this will be aim prone speed, and then we will have a value coming from the actual current weapon we want to use. So this is the item. I'll just do public float aim modifier, aim speed modifier. Okay, so we can get rid of this. Then on standing we could just do is aiming aim speed, move speed, otherwise aiming aim crouch speed, aim prone speed. Okay, and that will be it. And on top of that, you could just do current weapon or weapon. What do we have? Come on. Starting weapons. Where do we have the current weapon? Or do we not have the current weapon? Okay, I don't like that I don't see a reference to our current weapon. So, okay, we're doing this from the FPS handler. Kind of silly, but okay, we can live with that. So, FPS handler, current weapon, load. And that is not even the reference, right? Yeah. Item. We don't have the item. We have the items here though. And let's see the reference to that either. So assign weapons. We should go with that. So when we are equipping, we should have a reference to the equipped index. Okay. So equipped index will be I. Then we could just make a shortcut current weapon as item and just do get return assigned weapons equipped index. Okay, then down here minus get our equipped current weapon as item dot aim speed modifier. Now there's one thing we should do over here. We should be checking if current weapon as item is not null. We should be checking that, and we should also be checking if assigned weapons dot count is 0, then return null. Okay, just to avoid some errors in the future, because you might want to be unarmed. Okay, so that's how we can affect stats. Okay, so let's do this. Let's check this for the weapons. So this is the M16. I'm going to say aim speed modifier will be 1. So you can see the major difference. Okay, so I am moving at 1 degree, but if I hold on. My speed, okay. So let's say the M16, I'll just make the aim speed modifier to be 4. So we can see this much larger degree. And we actually doesn't work. Why though? Assigned weapons, is this empty? Yep, it is empty. Damn it. It is empty because we're taking it from the starting weapons at best, I guess. Yeah, load weapon. So that's probably wrong. Where do we use this? Load weapon item. Okay, so assigned weapons, we're going to change this. We're just going to do one small thing because the starting weapons should probably go. So assigned weapons will do add range starting weapons, because the starting weapons in the future will just load them from the from IDs and all that once we're loading the games. Okay, and there we go. Aim speed modifier is 4, and for AR is the normal one. Okay, so that's just some OPP, not OPP, OOP for you. OPP is a different thing. And okay, so that's some OP for you, how you can control the stats based on the weapon. So if you have a pistol, you can actually just go minus as well. And if you go minus, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to move faster. So maybe it will make sense to just have minus values. So we'll do the change on the controller and we'll just say plus. So if you want to be moving slower, then just change them to minus value. Okay, so I think that should be enough. This wasn't just the animations, but how you can just change stats depending either on active values. Stance is an active value, for example, or how you can change stats from weapons. Okay, just to see some object-oriented programming. Alternatively, although it's kind of silly to do that, you could create stances as scriptable objects and have all the stats that are affected by the stance on the scriptable object. Of course, that would have been just silly because, as I said, what's the point? It's only 3, and you're probably only going to have 3 throughout the entire game, so I guess, yeah, what's the point? So that's it for this part. On the next one, we're going to do a little bit, we're going to expand a little bit more thing on the animations. I think it's time to go for the, yeah, I think it's time to go for the TPS part of our game, just so we can see. Okay, awesome. So I'll see you on the next one.